Hey everyone, Jonny Skywatcher here. We are rapidly approaching the final episode of WandaVision. Haven't made a video for every episode, or I've been clumping some of them together, and I was thinking about doing a video for episodes 7 and 8, since I didn't do one for 7. And then I was thinking maybe I'd wait until the finale to just do a overall. But I was thinking, I had the thought of why not talk about my predictions for the season finale, or maybe series finale. We don't even know if this is going to be a limited run, or are they planning on stretching this out to a season 2? I like the show, but I kind of more hope it's just a one and done deal, because I don't know if this is something that works as a multiple season sort of thing, but we'll see. If you're watching this video, I'm obviously talking about the finale, my predictions for it. I'm obviously going to mention spoilers from previous episodes, so if you are not caught up with the latest episode, which is episode 8 of WandaVision, and you don't like being spoiled, then go get caught up on WandaVision right now and then come back to this video. And I say that because I need the views. Really, don't click off this video, please. What are my predictions for the season finale of WandaVision? Good question. I think that a lot of people are going to be disappointed by a couple things. You know, there have been a lot of theories with this show. A lot of them dealing with Mephisto and Nightmare and various other big characters. You know, there was the whole thing with the aerospace engineer, which may or may not be totally dead now. We don't really know. You know, she met with, what was her name? Major Goodner, who maybe was the person she was talking about, or maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe we're just waiting for a reveal. A lot of questions were answered in the latest episode, where it seems like we have gotten the final answer on what happened. How did the hex come to be? You know, what was the genesis of it? And it turned out that it was Wanda all along. You know, it doesn't seem like she got any help from Mephisto or someone like that in order to create the hex. It does seem to have been created entirely by Wanda, by herself. And it does seem, from what we were shown in episode 8, that the vision in the hex, the WandaVision, so to speak, as I've seen it referenced by people, the WandaVision is created entirely by Wanda. Now, there could be more to it. You know, it could be because her powers come from the Mind Stone, that maybe her creating Vision, like the WandaVision in that way, sort of recreated a copy of the Mind Stone or something like that, because there was that weird effect where you saw her power was bursting out of her, but then it was transforming from the red to the yellow of the Mind Stone. So it is possible that there's more going on than we know about, and maybe we won't even find out in this last episode. And that's one thing I do want to touch on really quickly is, I don't know if they can wrap it all up in one more episode, at least with the kind of stuff people are expecting. And one thing I'm expecting from this episode is I'm not expecting it to break the formula. You know, it's obviously they've gotten away from the sitcom formula. You know, pretty much this, like, episode 8 has completely gotten rid of the sitcom. It still has like a sort of formula to it, where it's like it's got in that like 30 to 40 minute mark. And despite a lot of people thinking that it's going to be a longer episode and be more action packed, I think there is the possibility that it won't be. You know, I think it should. I don't know. It seems like there should be some sort of showdown. You know, I just think it's not going to be on the level of a Marvel movie. If people are expecting it to go from what it has been on the show so far to basically the level of Infinity War or Endgame, you're out of luck. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not going to be as big as any of the Marvel movies. I guess I'm getting ready for people to be disappointed. And that's one of the things so far from watching other people's reactions, I like to watch the Nerd Report with Lewis, and a lot of them have been sort of like increasingly disappointed as the weeks go on. And there's been a lot of pushback about the release schedule for it, and I've talked about that before in previous videos, but I do feel like you just look at the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. It's very indicative of what the show was going to be in the rest of the series. It's a long, drawn-out mystery, and I think a lot of people expected it to move along faster. I've argued that, you know, in some ways it could have gone a lot slower. In fact, I was watching a YouTube video earlier. I believe it's... I'll probably put a link up here. Alex Myers, who does cartoon recaps of TV shows, and he actually argued that he would have preferred if the reveals had been pushed back, so that he could have enjoyed sort of that sitcom world a little bit more, rather than trying to get to the answers. And then Andy Signor on Popcorn Planet has been arguing since the beginning that they should have revealed more sooner. So you have an interesting, different opinions there. I have been happy so far with the way the show has been paced. I've been enjoying everything. I do understand some of the criticisms, but for me, everything has been working. So getting into what I think will actually happen in the show, last week we left off. Wanda had gone through this sort of flashback sequence of events. You know, we got to find like I said earlier, we found out that she was the cause of the hex, and Agatha has said that she is the Scarlet Witch, which I'm assuming is going to have a unique meaning in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because as far as I understand, as far as I know, the Scarlet Witch isn't a specific position in the Marvel comics. You know, I've seen reference to the Nexus, as was referenced in one of the commercials. People were talking about how Wanda in the comics is a Nexus being. I don't know all the details, but it's someone very important in the multiverse. So a lot of people were, of course, thinking that might be how they bring the multiverse into it, which is heavily rumored to be the big focal point of the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward. I think it seems to appear that the MCU is going to have a very specific position or person, or like myth, as Agatha Harkness refers to it, of the Scarlet Witch. And I think we will get some answers to that next week. Or not even next week, in a few days, we'll get some answers about what the Scarlet Witch is. I'm guessing it's just as Agatha referred to it as a myth, probably some sort of prophecy referred to a person who would be able to basically make things out of thin air and have a huge amount of power, and that person would be the Scarlet Witch, which would be the simplest explanation. And basically it just appears that Wanda is that person. That's how she gets the codename of the Scarlet Witch. There's the whole question of what is going to end up with Vision and the kids. Will they disappear? I've been saying from sort of the start that if it was Wanda all along, that she might be forced to basically face have to decide whether to keep the kids in Vision or not. And one thing I could definitely see happening is the hex expanding even more, or Wanda starts losing control over it, and then she has to decide to shut it all down. But if she shuts it all down, obviously she'll lose Vision and the kids. She doesn't want to do that, but I can definitely see that being the big conflict that Wanda is faced with in the final episode. Speaking of Vision, a lot of people have been predicting the White Vision we saw at the end of episode 8 in the after credits is going to fight Vision. I think that's a fair chance. the easiest thing that could happen, that is already, I've seen lots of people in forums say, is that the WandaVision will be sort of the mind, the mind or spirit of Vision will go into the body or the White Vision, and they'll basically combine, and Vision will be reformed. That would be the easiest way to bring Vision back entirely into the MCU. It is a little convenient, I think, for a lot of people. And the MCU already has the problem not killing characters off, like, a lot. And I think, personally, I would prefer if that isn't what happens. You know, as much as I want a happy ending for Wanda, I think it would be, I'm pulling for a bittersweet ending. I don't think it's going to end in a tragedy. I don't think they're going to have just Wanda go super crazy, especially from comments I've seen on the showrunner, what he said about, like, Wanda's mental state and trying not to make a show that just has, like, the crazy woman trope. I don't think Wanda's just going to go crazy like a lot of people have been saying. I think she's going to have to face her own grief and learn to live with it. And I think definitely it'll be a question of what happens with the kids. Because that's the bigger thing that it seems like makes it harder to make it just a totally bittersweet thing with having them disappear. I feel like that could drive Wanda over the edge. So that is a little bit harder to deal with. But I could see it happening. White Vision showing up and fighting Vision, I could see. I kind of hope that they don't just combine them together, that one has to basically beat the other. Well, if the WandaVision beats White Vision up and destroys it, because it's probably just a tool of the sword guy. I can't remember his name. It's probably slightly evil, and so the WandaVision will have to destroy it. And I think that Wanda will basically have to be forced to shut down the Hex because it'll be expanding or something, or threatening other people's lives, and she'll have to come to terms with her grief and shut it down. But in doing so, she'll lose Vision and the kids. And then I think there's a possibility we'll see, if the kids disappear, it'll be a thing where they disappear, but we find out later that they're not quite gone forever, or maybe Wanda's not even aware of it. I don't know. And then maybe Doctor Strange will show up at the very end. I think if Doctor Strange shows up, you know, a lot of people have been speculating on what a major cameo it will be in this show, and there's been some, like, comments that have been read into way too much of people assuming that means a huge cameo. Luke, like a level of the Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian Season 2 will show up. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think if Doctor Strange does show up, it'll be at, like, after credits or at the very end. More likely after credits. And it'll be Wanda showing, like, he'll go to Wanda, or she'll go to him to train for magic. That's my guess. And other big cameos, I really doubt that we're going to find out the aerospace engineer was Reed Richards all along, and he just, you know, wasn't there when they brought the vehicle with them. Could it happen? It's a possibility, yeah. A very low possibility. I would say below 5%. That's what I would put it at. It's possible, but not very likely. I think the one theory I do think is likely when it comes to, like, Major Goodner, it is possible that they are Skrulls, which would be, I'll be honest, wouldn't be that exciting, but it would at least give more to the idea of, like, I don't know, how did they introduce that whole thing without knowing that it was going to lead to speculation? Because in the first, when Monica initially mentions having a person outside, she says aerospace engineer. She doesn't say a name, and then she references her guy. Come on. if we don't get introduced to some new character or there's some cameo, you had to have known that people would speculate. When you say a position like that and you don't say a name, when it would be perfectly natural if she said, "Oh, I know an aerospace engineer, Major Goodner," or "I know an aerospace engineer, Goodner." You could have thrown it into the episode, and then we would have known about it, and sure, some people would have speculated, but when that character of Goodner showed up, we would have said, okay, that's the person that Monica was talking about. Okay, whatever. But yeah, when you just say aerospace engineer, in the next episode, we don't see that person yet, but you say, my guy's waiting right over the ridge. And then in the next episode, you're just like, oh, here's a bunch of people. And she doesn't even address Major Goodner like, oh, this is obviously her guy. She doesn't say to Wu, oh, here's my guy, Major Goodner, or some sort of thing like that. So, I don't know. It's a little irritating. And speaking of irritating things, I think we are almost pretty much at the point where Pietro, as Agatha referred to him in the latest episode, is pretty much deconfirmed as the Fox X-Men. Because Agatha says that he was like her eyes and ears or something like that. And so it seems like he's just a projection of Agatha's. This could change in the last episode, but it's going to be hard to explain if they do. And I have to say, that's lame. That's the biggest thing that I'm like, you did this with Spider-Man Far From Home. You said, oh, there's a multiverse, and then pulled a rug out from under us and said, no, actually, he was lying. It was Mysterio. And that was fine. And then, but to do it again and have this major thing where people thought this was going to be the way you bring the Fox X-Men into the universe, or bring X-Men into the universe and have it be a thing. It was like, no, it's just, he just happens to look like the Fox X-Men. That's lame. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Unless there's, at this point, I don't know how you explain it. Because she pretty clearly said that Pietro was her eyes and ears, like a crystalline projection or whatever. So I don't see how you go from that to her saying, oh, actually, in order to make that projection, I pulled him from another universe. Especially because she doesn't seem to be as powerful as Wanda. Because she's more in awe of what Wanda is able to do, and she's kind of confused by the fact that Wanda doesn't seem to even know her own powers and is able to do this much. So her pulling someone else from another universe in order to make a person that could pretend to be her dead brother seems a little unlikely, I would say. So yeah, that's one thing I'm not happy with this show. I just don't see them changing that in the last episode. The only out of left field thing I can think of happening with that would be that the real Pietro from the X-Men universe shows up somehow. That is separate from the fake Pietro. I would say that's also like less than 5%. Not very likely. That covers Wanda. Agent Hayward. That's the guy from S.W.O.R.D. I don't really think anything else is going on with him. I think he's just a S.W.O.R.D. guy. And I think, just like a lot of these government characters in shows like this, he thinks he knows what's best for the U.S. government and everything like that, and that we need a weapon to protect ourselves and yada, yada, yada. I give it less than 5% that he's secretly Ultron. It's possible, not very likely. So it would be pretty cool if, like, in the last episode, he rips off his skin. Biggest reason why I don't think that's going to happen, actually, I'll go into that. We haven't seen Ultron. If we had seen Ultron or heard Ultron's voice in the episodes themselves, I know maybe he was in, like, one of the previously on, but those don't really count. If we had seen something like that, then I would say there would be a chance we could either see Ultron or hear his voice. And that's why also I don't think White Vision is going to have Ultron's voice. because we haven't heard Ultron. If we had in a previous episode, I would say there's a fair chance, but we haven't. Not within the episodes themselves. So I'm going to give that also a less than 5% chance of happening. So pretty much everything I'm saying like tonight is like, that's not likely. Just to recap what I think is going to happen, there's going to be some sort of showdown. The episode length, I don't think is going to be much longer, because I know people before the show came out were talking about how someone said, or there was a rumor that the last 2 episodes would be an hour long. That is not appeared to be the case at all. You know, the last episode was like longer than previous episodes. I think it was like over 40 minutes if you took the credits out. I see people saying it's going to be 50 minutes. If it's 50 minutes, it's more like 43 at best once you take the credits out. And that's okay. I gotta have to go on another tangent here. Disney, why Disney Plus? Why do you have 7 minutes of credits? And it's not just the show's credits. There are these specific black credits that happen after the main credits that go into like all the translations and things. I've seen them on some Netflix shows too. And it's just so irritating when you're looking for how long the show is and it's showing you like you have to subtract 7 from your mind. And there's no reason why they couldn't have those credits like added to the show, but not added to the length of the show. Like having it a different file or whatever. I don't know. You can figure it out. You're a big time streamer. It's an irritation. And I think even though it really doesn't affect the show in the long run or the quality of the show, it is irritating that the run times look longer than they really are. So yes, I think there will be confrontation. I think the episode is at best 43 minutes long. I don't think it's going to be a major diversion from the style of the show. I think it's still going to be not as much action. There might be a little bit more action, but I don't think it's going to suddenly turn into Infinity War here with like just, full out superhero battles. I think there's going to be a lot more talking that people want. I think there will be a lot of people who are irritated by that. There will be a lot of talking. It is a TV show. Wanda talking to Vision, or Wanda talking to Agatha. She's going to get the kids out of that. Spoilers, but I already saw just a photo of the family facing against someone, probably Agatha. White Vision is going to show up. There's Vision's probably going to fight Vision. Monica will probably fight fake Quicksilver, and Wanda will probably fight Agatha. But they're not going to be as big as superhero fights. Maybe they will. I could always be surprised. I put that more likely than what I've said before. I'm going to give it a 40% chance of happening. That we get like a bigger superhero showdown than I think. I think it's possible. I think it's totally possible. I just don't think if you look at the rest of the show and try to predict what's going to happen next, I don't think that's what you would expect. So it could happen, but I wouldn't be hoping for it. I'm not hoping for it. I'm not expecting it. Thanks for watching my video. As I was editing, I realized I actually had too much footage for just one video, so I will be coming out with a second WandaVision predictions video where I just look over what other people are saying on the internet and see what I think about that. So keep an eye out for that. If you also had thoughts about WandaVision, leave your comments below. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't, click that dislike button, I guess, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.